Welcome back to the deep dive where we dive deep into those stacks of sources and then we come back up and we give you the most interesting parts,
That's right.
the stuff that makes you think. And this time you've really given us a doozy. I mean, a strange one.
Yeah, this is a weird one.
It's a weird one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got this online forum conversations called the Hidden Hand AMA, and then this whole other thing called the Law of One, which is a channeled text.
Quite a pairing, right? I mean, it's like we've got this person claiming to be this hidden hand, like shaping world events from some, ancient lineage, and then on the other hand, this complex spiritual text that's, giving us a whole other perspective on reality and how things work.
It really is like apples and oranges, and yet they're in the same basket somehow.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the Hidden Hand AMA on its own
Yeah.
is enough to make you scratch your head and go like, is this real?
Yeah, is somebody, messing with us.
Yeah, is it a big joke?
Yeah.
But then you get into the details and it gets even weirder.
Yeah.
They're claiming to have, family money that would make billionaires look like they're, playing with pennies.
Right.
They're talking about directing governments and financial systems, and there's even this council of elders that's, chosen them to be these catalysts for change here on Earth.
Like it's a conspiracy thriller, meets esoteric philosophy.
It really is.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So the hidden hand, this person is saying that their lineage fell from a higher density to guide humanity's evolution, and they specifically mentioned this coming harvest.
Okay.
So this is where it gets really, really interesting. They recommend reading The Law of One.
Real.
They claim that it's like 85% accurate.
That's the part that really I was like, wait a minute. Why would someone who's claiming to be, pulling the strings behind the scenes recommend a channeled text for validation?
Right. It's like finding a secret society's handbook,
Yeah.
tucked inside a yoga studio or something.
Exactly.
Uh,
It's really strange.
yeah. So it suggests there's this connection between these two seemingly unrelated sources. It's almost like they're, two sides of the same coin. And the hidden hand seems to be pointing towards the Law of One, like it's offering some genuine insights, into the forces that are at play, maybe even hinting at, their own role in this grand cosmic scheme of things.
So, okay, let's talk about the Law of One a little bit because it's a pretty dense read.
It is.
There are a lot of abstract concepts in there, and it took me a while to wrap my head around this whole idea of densities, at these different levels of spiritual evolution.
Right. Densities are key to understanding both of these sources.
Okay.
So in the Law of One, we've got Ra, this entity that is speaking through the channel. And Ra describes these densities as vibrational levels of existence,
Okay.
each with its own set of lessons and challenges that you go through. And Ra says that the Earth is transitioning from third to fourth density.
Okay.
It's a process that they call the harvest.
And that ties directly into what the Hidden Hand is talking about, right?
Exactly.
This coming harvest.
Yeah, it's like both sources are pointing towards this major shift in consciousness.
Like we're graduating to a higher level of being.
Exactly. But then we hit this fascinating contradiction.
Right.
The Law of One really emphasizes free will.
Right.
This idea that each soul chooses its own path, its own polarity of service to self or service to others.
Okay, so how does that work? If you've got this powerful lineage that's supposedly pulling strings from behind the scenes, if they're directing the play, how much free will do we really have?
Yeah, it seems like those two ideas clash.
Just like head-on collision.
Right. That's the big tension here. How do we reconcile individual choice with the possibility of unseen forces that are influencing events? And it brings up so many questions about control destiny and how much agency we really possess.
And it makes you wonder about the Hidden Hands agenda too, right?
Yeah.
Why reveal yourself in an online forum? Especially if you don't care if people believe you, which is what they claim.
Right. It seems counterintuitive. Like if you're not seeking followers or, spreading propaganda, what's the point of this whole charade? We need to look deeper beyond the surface claims and think about what they might be trying to achieve here.
So are they genuinely trying to help humanity evolve, like
Yeah.
they say?
Yeah.
Or is there a hidden motive? Is this a power play? Are they trying to just sow chaos?
Yeah.
It's really hard to tell, and that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
I know. It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we can't take either source at face value, right?
Right.
We have to use our critical thinking skills, dissect their claims, connect the dots ourselves and, always consider different interpretations.
We were not here to tell you what to believe.
No?
We're just laying out the puzzle pieces
Yeah,
and letting you, the listener, put them together in a way that makes sense to you.
that's right.
And maybe in the process, we'll all discover something profound about ourselves, the nature of reality and the forces that shape our lives.
Exactly. And to dig a little deeper into this puzzle, let's look at some specific claims from the Hidden Hand AMA
Okay.
and see how they line up with the framework from the Law of One. For example, what does their claim of falling from a higher density tell us about their nature and purpose?
Interesting. Could this fall be related to the wanderers in the Law of One? Ra describes wanderers as souls from higher densities who choose to incarnate on Earth to help with the
Yeah.
harvest.
Right?
So maybe the Hidden Hand is hinting at a similar origin story for their lineage.
It's a fascinating possibility, and if we think of them as wanderers, it makes you wonder about their methods.
Right.
They talk about directing the play for centuries, but is that really service to others, which is what Rat emphasizes?
Right.
Could it be that their approach, even though they're claiming to be benevolent, leans more towards control than genuine guidance?
That's a good point. The Law of One really highlights the importance of free will and the right of each soul to choose its own path. But if the Hidden Hand is manipulating events behind the scenes, doesn't that contradict the idea of individual choice?
It certainly brings up a lot of ethical questions.
Yeah.
Even if their intentions are good, can their methods be justified if they're infringing on the free will of others? And does their focus on power and control, even if it's for what they believe is the greater good, does that align with the principles of love and compassion that Ra teaches?
That's where it gets really interesting, right? We're forced to confront this tension between what seems like benevolent guidance
Right.
and the potential for manipulation.
It's tricky.
And it makes you wonder, are we really masters of our own destiny? Or are we playing a game with rules we don't even understand?
A very good question,
Okay.
and one that we'll continue to explore. It's a question that the Law of One grapples with a lot. Ra talks about this cosmic dance between the forces of light and darkness, and they both have a part in how consciousness evolves. They even mention a group called the Orion Confederation. And they represent service to self, and they often use manipulation and control to get what they want.
Hold on, the Orion Confederation, who are they? I don't remember that from the Law of One.
Oh, right. Sorry, I maybe got a little ahead of myself. The Orion Confederation, according to Ra, is a group of beings from the Orion constellation, and they operate from this perspective of service to self. So they put their own needs and desires above everyone else's, and they often try to control and manipulate others to gain power and influence.
So like cosmic bullies.
Pretty much, yeah.
And are you saying that the Hidden Hand's lineage might be influenced by or like aligned with this Orion group?
It's definitely a possibility worth thinking about. The Law of One suggests that these negative forces, as bad as they seem, actually help us grow. They challenge us to figure out what we value, to choose between serving ourselves or serving others, and to really strengthen our resolve to follow the path of light.
So even the bad guys have a role to play in this cosmic drama. It's kind of like how a good story needs a villain to create conflict and move the plot forward.
Exactly. And it shows how complex this whole system is. Nothing is totally black and white. Even those who seem to be working against humanity's best interests might actually be unknowingly serving a higher purpose by pushing us to evolve.
Okay, but let's get back to the Hidden Hand. If they're saying they're guiding humanity towards a positive harvest, how does all this manipulation and control fit into that?
That's the big question, isn't it? Maybe they believe they know what's best for humanity, and that even though their methods seem questionable, the end result justifies it.
So it's like they see themselves as these benevolent shepherds guiding a flock of sheep who just don't know what's good for them.
Exactly. But this brings up another important point from the Law of One. The veil of forgetting Ra says that when souls come into third density, they forget their true nature and their connection to the One. This veil is crucial for us to experience free will and to make real choices about our spiritual evolution.
So are you saying that the Hidden Hand, even with all their advanced knowledge and lineage, could be operating under this veil of forgetting too?
It's possible. The Law of One says that even those who come from higher densities can get caught up in the illusions of third density and forget their true purpose.
That's kind of humbling, isn't it? To think that even beings who claim to have been shaping world events for centuries might be just as lost and confused as the rest of us.
It really emphasizes that we're all on a journey of learning and evolving. No one has all the answers, and even those who seem to be in control might be dealing with their own limitations and challenges.
So where does that leave us? If we can't fully trust the Hidden Hand, And even those who seem to be working for the light can get caught up in the illusions of power. How do we navigate this whole crazy cosmic landscape?
That's where discernment comes in. The Law of One says it's super important to seek truth and wisdom from within to develop our own intuition and critical thinking skills. We can't just blindly accept everything we hear, even if it's from sources that seem credible or well-intentioned.
So it's like we need to build our own internal compass to guide us through all this information and these different perspectives.
Precisely. And that compass is powered by our hearts, our intuition, and our connection to the One.
So how do we actually, develop that internal compass? I mean, it feels like we're just bombarded with information from every direction, especially with stuff like the hidden hand AMA, popping up online.
Yeah, that's the challenge we face, right?
Hmm.
Information overload, but the Law of One offers some helpful advice. Ra really stresses the importance of meditation, contemplation, and seeking knowledge with an open heart.
So it's not just about taking in information, but actually taking the time to really think about it and feel into what rings true to us.
Exactly. You have to develop a discerning mind, A&D, a discerning heart.
Yeah.
We can analyze the information, look for contradictions or things that don't logically make sense, but we also have to pay attention to our gut feeling, that intuition.
That makes sense. It's like having multiple layers of checks and balances, not just accepting things at face value, even if they sound convincing or, maybe fit into our existing beliefs.
Right. And remember, the Law of One reminds us that we're not alone in this. We can call on our higher selves, our spiritual guides and the good forces in the universe to help us with our discernment.
That's comforting to hear. Honestly, sometimes it feels like we're just kind of stumbling around in the dark trying to make sense of it all.
That's a natural feeling, especially when you come across information that challenges your worldview. But remember, confusion often leads to growth. It's in those moments of uncertainty that we're pushed to question things, to search for deeper meaning and to refine our understanding of ourselves and the universe.
So that maybe the hidden hand AMA, with all its weirdness and ambiguity, is actually pushing us to do just that. To question our assumptions, to delve deeper into spiritual truth, and to become more discerning.
It's an intriguing possibility, right? Maybe the hidden hand, whether they mean to or not, is acting like a cosmic trickster, shaking things up and forcing us to wake up from our complacency.
And even if they're not intentionally trying to help their claims, can still make us think more deeply. Like we've been doing in this deep dive, we're using their words as a starting point to explore the Law of One and wrestle with some really big questions.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, that's what's important. The journey of exploration, the expansion of consciousness, that constant striving to understand. It's not about finding one definitive answer. It's about engaging in the process of seeking.
So what would you say is the takeaway for our listeners? What do you hope they walk away with after going through this mix of the hidden hand and the Law of One?
I hope they come away from this with a renewed sense of curiosity, a willingness to question everything, and a commitment to seeking truth from within. The Law of One tells us that we're all sparks of the Creator with unlimited potential and the power to choose our own path.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, the hidden hand, whether a genuine guide or a cosmic prankster, is a reminder that the universe works in mysterious ways, always challenging us to evolve and to wake up to our true nature.
Perhaps the true hidden hand is the one we find inside ourselves, the hand that guides our thoughts, actions, and choices, leading us closer to the light of truth and the oneness of all beings.
That's beautiful. And with that thought, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the mysteries of the hidden hand and the Law of One. We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, questioning, seeking, and discovering your own truth along the way.
Remember, the journey itself is the destination. May your path be filled with wonder, insight, and the ever-growing light of awareness.
Until next time, keep diving deep.